San Diego is official. Mark Martin and Danielle Trotta have a beef with each other on X this week, and NASCAR rolls on into Indianapolis. Let's talk about it next on Racin-n-Braisin. Well, hi folks, welcome back to Racin-n-Braisin. I am CJ, a lifelong NASCAR fan and chef, bringing you plenty of news and analysis from each race weekend, as well as a few tips and tricks from my kitchen to yours. Today, we are going to catch up on a busy news week in the world of NASCAR. Then we'll dive into what the race weekend looks like from Indianapolis as all three series head into the greater Indianapolis region. IRP and IMS on deck. We'll give you the schedule for that. We'll also touch on some notes to keep in mind for the Brickyard 400 and who I am going to be looking at as we head into practice and qualifying. So let's dive right on into it and get caught up on the news. Okay, first, I want to put some clarification on my rant from earlier this week about the prize money from the end season challenge. Turns out, it's always been the case that the purse money, prize money from anything NASCAR related goes to the owners per the agreement with NASCAR, and then it's up to the owners to distribute as agreed upon through contracts or just regular employment. So my rant was probably a little off base, but still, I mean, come on, we've been advertised that the driver is getting $1 million, and to find out that it's really for the owner to distribute just kind of seemed like a bait and switch. And why are we just now getting the clarification on that with just a week to go in the in-season challenge? So I'm not going to apologize for the rant, but it was slightly off. All right, let's move on to the actual news of the week. San Diego in 2026 has been made official, and it got one heck of a release. NASCAR is going to be heading to Naval Base Coronado for Father's Day weekend in the summer of 2026. They'll be running on an approximately 3-mile course that has yet to be decided upon, but they will be working with iRacing, just like they did for the Charlotte Roval, to develop the course for next year's race. So it will not be on the streets of San Diego, but it will be on streets on the naval base. Plus, they'll touch on a little bit of the tarmac, and it all coincides with the 250th anniversary of the Great USA and also the U.S. Navy. So a highly, highly patriotic production is what we are definitely going to expect for the San Diego race in 26. Also this week, NASCAR has added an arbitrary rule. I'm going to go ahead and call this the lawsuit rule, and it has to do with limiting, per their discretion, the number of entries for a race to 40 if they feel like there's a chance that 2311 or Front Row Motorsports might not make a race because there's too many cars entered for it. They can go ahead and pull this rule so that they can avoid any future mess regarding the future lawsuit. Once again, NASCAR changing the rules right in the middle of the season. They make it up as they go, a common theme for NASCAR and a common complaint among us NASCAR fans. Also this week, we saw that Jimmy Johnson gave an interview and was asked about Daniel Suarez, and he commented that he likes Suarez. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a seat for him at Legacy Motor Club. So you can take Legacy off the potential list for landing spots for the free agent Daniel Suarez. I think the front runner for Suarez still lies with Junior Motorsports down in the Xfinity Series, but he has made it very clear that he does not want to take a step back, that he's worked really hard to get the cup, and that's where he wants to stay. Mark Martin and Danielle Trotta had a little bit of a back and forth online this week. It actually kind of started on Sirius XM Monday and Tuesday-ish. Trotta and Larry McReynolds were talking about the playoffs and the playoff format, and kind of referenced somebody on the playoff council who was pushing real hard to go back to the traditional full race season championship playoff format, or whatever you want to call it. Everybody assumed online, because we're all really good at doing that they were referencing Mark Martin, and it stirred up this whole big old pot, and everybody got their panties in a twist. Well, Mark Martin and Daniel Trotta talked and said that even though they agree to have some differences, they left things very respectable and mutual because they respect and adore each other. So good to see that that didn't blow up into something more negative. They handled it very well. But once again, social media just going nuts over all sorts of stuff. Yeah, we all get caught up in that stuff, don't we? Well, that's just a brief recap on the news that has happened this week. So many other things going on in the NASCAR world, but we won't touch on that here. Let's dive into what is coming up for NASCAR this weekend. They're rolling into Indianapolis, and we get IRP back, which is great. The trucks and ARCA will be there on Friday, and then we're going to be back on the oval for the second year in a row now at the Brickyard. So let's dive on into the schedule. Busy weekend ahead. Friday in particular is going to have a lot going on, as we can see here. Cup and Xfinity are going to have their practice on Friday, the Cup practice, 1 o'clock on True TV. And then we'll start to see IRP come alive. We are going to see the truck practice and qualifying on FS1, followed by the ARCA race, also FS1, and things round out with the truck race at 8 p.m. from IRP. Saturday, we kick things off with Xfinity qualifying at 1, followed by Cup qualifying at 2:30, again on True TV. And then the Xfinity race is going to be at 4:30 on CW. Finally, Sunday brings us the Brickyard 400, 160 laps from the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That will be at 2 o'clock. TNT's final broadcast in their 5-race run. So let's take a look at some of the notes to keep in mind as we head into practice and qualifying this weekend. Denny Hamlin is seeking to become the 5th driver to win all of the crown jewel events. The Brickyard 400 is the only one that he has not won. The odds are absolutely favoring him. He's hot. He's happy to be back on ovals, and he just got a win there in Dover. So definitely favoring Denny Hamlin as we go into this weekend. Denny Hamlin, of course, is part of one of 3 organizations, Joe Gibbs, Hendrick, and the former Stewart-Haas Racing, who have won 9 of the last 10 Brickyard 400. So expect to see Joe Gibbs Racers and Hendrick Motorsports guys up front. As we can see here, the odds, of course, put them towards the top. 5 of the last 7 Brickyards have ended in an overtime, and the lead has changed with less than 8 laps to go in 5 of the last 7 Brickyards. So we might get a little bit of action late. This course can be run just like a road course as far as the fuel mileage strategy goes. So we'll definitely be hearing about that throughout the course of the race. People will be on varying strategies based on how they want to play points for stages or going for the win at the end. You'll hear that familiar song about fuel mileage, pit strategy, and tires, right? So who am I going to be watching this weekend? Well, obviously, like I said, HMS and Joe Gibbs Racing, any one of those guys are going to be highly favored this weekend. So we will keep an eye on how they're doing. In particular, William Byron has been on a slide here in the last 6 races. Not entirely of his doing, but an average finish position of 25th over the last 6 races. Expect to see the 24 team try to come out swinging this weekend and get a strong finish. Also, I'm going to be looking at Penske. Are they going to continue to struggle in the middle of the summer here, or is this just a summer slip? Back on the ovals now, we did see Ryan Blaney had a pretty decent day in Dover, and Joey Logano had a strong finish, so maybe they're not too far off, but I do also want to see some speed out of Cindric and Josh Berry this weekend to kind of determine if Penske is on a rebound or if there really is a midsummer slip there for those guys. And then finally, just a couple of random guys that I want to keep an eye on as we go into practice and qualifying. Carson Hocevar and Michael McDowell over at Spire. They've been fast on ovals, and they've been qualifying really well this year. So, are they going to qualify well again is my big question. We'll keep an eye on that. And we'll put together a recap video of practice and qualifying Saturday night. I'll get that together for you and update the odds. Be sure to hit the subscribe button here so you don't miss any of that analysis. Until Saturday, guys, I hope you all are trucking on along, and I will catch up to you later. Stay happy.